Hola amigos, great to see you all once again as we gear ourselves up ready for the start of the third and final race of the opening weekend in the F4 Spanish Championship, certified by FIA, and where better to do it than the Circuito de la Comunidad Valenciana, Ricardo, Tormo. It's Valencia that kicks off the season, and already we've had two very exciting races, one that was determined on an initial safety car with a very processional key to it. The second one had a lot more banter and badinage. It was a very tricky race for all of the drivers to get used to, but it's now very much one-way traffic in the title fight for Rocco Coronel, who's come away with the first two races out of three. I'm Jake Sanson. With me is Claire Cottingham. We have certainly had two very interesting races, Claire. Now, after qualifying, Vivek Canthan is on pole once again, but Noah Montero is back in the hunt.
Yeah, two very different races as well, haven't we? Like you say, the first one was a bit quieter, and actually the winner of the first race didn't matter anyway, because the pole position person today, Vivek Canthan, got quite a few penalties off at the back of race one. And now heading into race two, it was Rocco Coronel who kept the win, but also inherited the win from the first one as well. So a bit of jiggery going on here and there. So today, Vivek Canthan has everything to play for. Huge crash yesterday in the race as well, and didn't score any points. The team have managed to get the car back and ready. We've had qualifying this morning, which by the way was wet, so that's another thing to be talking about. And now Vivek Canthan has all to play for, and hopefully that car has been fixed to exactly the spec he needs it.
Certainly it bodes well for the men from New York City, doesn't it? Pole position in the dry and in the wet, so it certainly cues him in for a great season. But with Noah Montero joining him on the front row of the grid, that's a statement of intent from the Spanish Winter Championship title winner. But Boris Leeson, third position, that's a great statement again from the KCL driver, who's obviously now leading the attack for MP. Rocco Coronel, double winner yesterday, only P6 behind Nathan Ty and Ty Fisher, so plenty to do. And for the female contingent, Luna Flusha is in the top 10 on merit. Really, really good to see that there is a very fast developmental track for Luna Flusha. So many stories coming into this one, Claire, but the uncertainty over the weather is definitely going to be a key factor in the background.
It was the first thing that me and Alex Garcia spoke about this morning, our pit lane reporter. I said to him, it's been wet qualifying. Are we expecting a wet race? And he said that the rain was meant to be coming over around about the time that the race is about to start. So very shortly, we're going to speak to Alex and hopefully he can give us an update. It is looking dry-ish at the moment. Always hard to tell from, you know, watching the screens in the commentary box and things like that. We need to be speaking to Alex down in the pit lane, who can tell us everything that's going on, because he can literally put his hand out and just see if it's starting to rain. But we have to say that so far this season, all of these drivers, which we've got over 30 on the grid, have not been racing in the wet this season. This is the third race of round one. So those clouds up there, as you can see, are starting to look like it could get a bit wet through this race. You can see there in the pit lane, it looks dry at the moment, and you can tell why, because no one's got any hoods up.
It's very true. It's interesting, amazingly, as we see Rocco Coronel in conversation with his father, Tom, who has had plenty of opportunities to get these kind of races under his belt with the uncertainty of the weather. But what's fascinating is that going into this weekend, we haven't actually had many wet races, even in the Winter Championship this year. So the drivers are definitely going into a unique situation, and it really is going to be eyes wide open. Kasper Schaumann, Stan Kelleher, Luna Flusha and Mickey Blaskos rounding out the top 10 in amongst the youngsters in the fray. Going down the grid and seeing drivers out of position thanks to wet qualifying, well, Andrej Petrovic will not at all be happy with P12 on the grid in the T-Code by Antog. He'll be hoping for rain now to actually give him a better chance to progress forward. I think there'll be some frustration as well from the Swede Elliot Kaczynski as we look at the Griffin Core duo. Vivek Canthan on the left and his teammate on the 8 car, Jakub Mikalev on the right, but you can just about see the wing to the other side of Noah Montero. Is that just coincidence that there is now a wall between the two of them? Because of course they are teammates at Griffin Core, but if their rivalry continues for much of this season, you do start to wonder how much longer they'll be sharing data or even speaking with each other.
Yeah, I think the team will probably be having those conversations behind closed doors, and I think there is at this level, especially between the teammates, they do continue to share the data and things like that. And I think Griffin Call will probably be careful what they tell each driver, but probably still, you know, the smaller teams like this, they have to share the data. They need as much data as they can. So unfortunately, they'll put the egos aside, probably, I'm sure, for a little bit and try and share as much data as they can. Just a point on who you mentioned, Andrej Petrovic, who has qualified down in 12th. You have to remember yesterday, his car was all but a shell after crashing into Vivek Kanthan, sort of really no fault of his own. He just couldn't go anywhere and managed to crash, unfortunately, into car number 22 that was facing the wrong way. So it could be that the team spent a long time putting that car back together, and it might just not be set up exactly how he likes it. So that could be part of the reason why the qualifying wasn't quite where he wanted it.
Also, interesting to note, his teammate Nasha Dunion in the other T-Code by Amtog is down in 18th, so I do wonder if there's a setup issue at T-Code. Normally, those two are relatively close together on raw pace. Pablo Ricobono, who was the third party in that incident, is 20th on the grid, so very impressive work indeed there for the GRS driver. Alish Pineda, who had such a great day at the races yesterday, third in race 1, second in race 2. Any chance to put that into a first position, has already had a hammer blow. 22nd on the grid alongside the Canadian Alex Chartier for the Technicar driver, way down in 22nd. Ironically enough, still the leading Technicar driver, but it's almost like it's a crash back to reality for the team for this third race of the season. Hopefully they'll be able to pick up the pieces again, ready for the second round of the championship, but certainly they're going to find things tricky. We can see already that there are some umbrellas in the air. Whether they're actually going to be needed or not, psychological rain is probably where we're getting up to towards the start of the race. There is Casper Schormans, the Richard Mille Talent Academy driver. Very impressive work that he did over the Winter Series. He's another of the top level drivers that we could see do great level work. Mind you, all of the drivers will be under very big scrutiny over the course of this year, because heading into the 2026 season, the F4 Spanish Championship is taking one step closer to the professional levels that we have at the top level of motorsport at Grand Prix racing, at Monaco, and even at Indianapolis in America. There's a brand new race control system heading into 2026. There is a new Epic branded Dallara Stradale safety car as well this year. Everything that can be done to accelerate the development and the technology in the F4 Spanish Championship is going to be accelerated, and all of the fantastic team have essentially kicked the boost button in every element of the field, and that is always really exciting. So we know that these youngsters aged between 15, 16, 17 are at the birth point of their racing journey, but as the technology grows and as the thirst for brilliant safety features and of course the advancement in the race development over the course of the F4 Spanish Championship continues, so is the Epic Racing paddock evolving, and so there is plenty more excitement at the fingertips of our teams and drivers. They are going to be under much more scrutiny this year, from track limits regulations to the camera assessments to the tracking of drivers. And to find out more about that, we actually managed to get our Spanish commentator for the F4 Spanish Championship, Cristobal Rosaleni, actually went into race control earlier in the weekend to have a conversation with the man at race control, Luis Gonzalez, who can tell us a lot more about the intricate safety features and all of the advancements and the technical developments that have actually kicked the F4 Spanish Championship more into touch in 2026. There is a lot more to come from these fantastic challenges. We're just looking on our pictures again at the variations in the weather conditions. This is a difficult time now for the mechanics. We're not entirely sure whether it's going to rain or be dry, and that's always a mindset that the mechanics have always got to balance with. It's never clear cut, and it can be one of those races, and I've seen it several times before at F4 level, where we could get the rain start to fall midway through lap 1. Let's keep an eye on that, but for now, Cristobal Rosaleni is in conversation with Luis Gonzalez at Race Control.
Estamos aquí en dirección de carrera y estamos con Luis González, el director de carrera. Luis, cuéntanos, porque aquí veo muchas cosas y muchas nuevas.
Bueno, pues empezamos por la más importante, novedades de este año, las radios. Hablamos directamente con los equipos, con todo el equipo interno nuestro de federación, con toda la parte deportiva y técnica. Además, también disponemos de la telemetría, que es en tiempo real. Podemos saber precisamente dónde están los coches en cada momento en el circuito. Además, tenemos todos sus datos del motor, como podéis ver aquí, del acelerador, del freno, posición, GPS y todo lo que necesitamos para poder trabajar. Esto es la novedad. También disponemos ahora de acceso a las cámaras de televisión, a la realización, lo cual nos facilita muchísimo la investigación de los incidentes durante la prueba en tiempo real, ¿vale? Y otra de las cosas que ya no es novedad, pero que siempre van implementando, es el sistema de track limits, que tenemos unas cámaras dedicadas con nuestro proveedor técnico Alcamel, que precisamente lo que hacen es detectan si el coche está fuera o dentro de la pista en tiempo real, va la clasificación, y esto nos evita muchísimos problemas a nivel deportivo y nos facilita mucho la vida dentro del race control.
El contraste con el sistema anterior de 0 a 10, ¿cuál sería?
Es completamente diferente, no sabemos todavía cómo hacíamos antiguamente, pero realmente con esto favorecemos muchísimo de carácter deportivo que la prueba sea mucho más justa, y también mejoramos muchísimo la seguridad.
Muchas gracias, Luis. Atentos, equipos, pilotos, estáis vigilados.
They certainly are being watched. It's going to be a much tighter season in terms of the regulation of the F4 Spanish Championship. Great to hear from Luis Gonzalez in race control. Now, of course, all of that technology will be utilised big time today, Claire. It's a tough race to predict, especially considering, as we don't quite know yet, what the weather is actually going to do.
Yeah, that was a really cool video. I love behind the scenes stuff and anything that kind of shows us the things we don't get to see, because it's so fascinating what goes into these race weekends. And we often mention, you know, the marshals and things like that often are volunteers, but, you know, there is a whole host of people from catering to behind the scenes that we just don't get to see. So anything that gives me a little insight into what we see that makes these race weekends work, I'm always really fascinated by. But yeah, exactly what you say. We just don't really know what's going to happen. It could be that, you know, we're 5 minutes into this race and the clouds just open up and we get a lot of rain. So it's going to be really interesting with such a big grid as well, how they navigate if the rain starts coming out, because at the moment, as you can see there in Mikolaf's car, he is on not wet weather tires. So that's the other thing you're going to have to think about, because those very sort of, we call them slick tires, are not, then you can't race those in wet. So that's a whole nother thing for the team to be thinking about.
Pedro Vilchas just getting himself ready in the epic Dallara Stradale safety car. We've actually got a camera on board the safety car in 2026, this brand new machine, which is designed to really put these cars through their paces under the safety car. There have been complaints in the past that some of the local-based safety cars utilised are not always quick enough to keep the tyres to an optimum temperature, and so what we have done is we've taken that decision on board. We've looked at the data, looked at those discussions, and Dallara, who have obviously helped us create the Euro Cup 3 car for this year in collaboration with Tom's Engine 101 and Cosworth, have actually gone to the drawing board and said, you know what, we can utilise our Stradale and turn it into a safety car. And my goodness me, does it look spectacular. Really, really cool to see that as we are getting ready for the departure of the cars to head out onto the circuit once again. They will be given the command at 1:10. The drivers are actually venturing out to the end of the pit lane, and they're all doing it en masse. Not all of them are going to get the perfect trajectory to lead out on to the pit lane. So let's head down to the man with the plan. Our roving reporter Alex Garcia can tell us a lot more about the conditions out there on the circuit. From us, Jake and Claire, Alex, we're reading you. What is the weather going to do? Can you give us any hint of what we are likely to get in this race?
Hello guys, I can give you a little bit of a hint, which is what the teams are expecting. They're expecting the race to be run entirely on dry conditions. Of course, we can say that there is a little bit of rain falling right now on the track. So of course that means that the temperature is not likely to rise too much. It's not as cold as it could be. I think it was 26 degrees just a few moments ago. So temperatures could be definitely colder, at least in track, when it comes to the track. Once again, if you can see the images behind me, you can see that the track is fairly dry. We have some wet patches around the circuit, but mostly it's dry. So that's the expectation. But then again, the conditions are entirely different from what we've seen this morning. So after the teams had to change their whole approach to set up the cars for that thin layer of water, which we saw in qualifying 2, approximately 12 to 13 seconds lower than qualifying yesterday. Now they have to go back to all those dry setups, and particularly different, especially for those drivers who have been perhaps a bit more competitive this morning. I know that Nathan Dye was expecting and hoping for rain, and he won't be too happy that the race is going to be basically dry. But there might be some other drivers, those who were quick yesterday, who want to replicate those conditions. One driver who doesn't care if it's dry or if it's wet, it's Vivek Kantan. He's been the quickest man on track this weekend, and he was the author, of course, of the pole position, both in qualifying 1 and qualifying 2, race 1 and race 3 in this case. Then again, there's a lot that can happen in 30 minutes, as you both know so well. So let's see what happens with the meteorology here in Cheste, because we have seen conditions change in that time.
Alex, I was going to say, we've seen conditions change, but everyone's going out on dry tyres, as you would expect. As you said, there's no rain. But what I'm interested in is the point that you said there were small patches of wet out there. Now, these drivers, they're new to these single-seaters, quite a few of them. A couple of them, like you said, have done it last year and did the Winter Series. But we wouldn't have seen these little patches. How bad do you think these little damp patches are? And are we going to see the cars really be affected?
I would expect them not to be too affected, to be honest. Here on the main straight, for example, if I look at the tarmac just below me, I can see on the left side, which is where some drivers will be starting from this side, but it is not the ideal line. It's a bit darker than it is on my right, which is a bit, of course, lighter. But in terms of race going on, I think some parts of the track might be a little bit trickier when you go out of the line. So overtaking might be a little bit trickier, at least at the start. But in terms of pace, let's say, I would expect them to be running at the usual dry pace.
Sounds about right. Alex, we'll let you catch up with bits and pieces going on down on the track side. We'll come back to you in a short while. It's a very good point you made there, Claire. Only 9 drivers on the 2026 F4 Spanish Championship grid cannot be said to be rookies. So this could be the first majorly serious test that the drivers are going to get in the 2026 season. It is not going to be easy. So we'll find out more about the conditions when the drivers get onto the starting grid. For now, though, Alex Garcia has actually found a special guest for us, the Technicar driver coach. It is Ayrton Simmons.
Of course, we are finding ourselves some protagonists to talk to. And Ayrton, I'm very happy to talk to you here, not just because you are here as a driver coach for Technicar T-Code, but also because you are an experienced driver yourself. But first of all, I want to ask you, how do you see the progress of Aleix Piñera, who, of course, was one of the big surprises yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it was a long time coming. He's been improving all throughout the Winter Series. And I think just the results yesterday really shows what a good job CTDM do. And obviously, thank you for the opportunity to SETI to make this possible. I think the faith that they have in us and in the program really shows. And yesterday, the results was just the cherry on top, to be honest. So yeah, really happy with the way things have progressed with him, and working with him has also been a really good experience. So
we know that in terms of driving coach, it's not necessary 100% to have been a driver. You can see a lot of things from the outside, but I think as a driver, you see more things. So how is it to work with drivers when you yourself have been in that position?
Yeah, I think we can relate a lot more. I can sort of put myself in their shoes a little bit, especially in these mixed conditions, which isn't easy. So yeah, I think it's good to use my experience, and obviously just I'll try and help the team in any way I can. I think the engineering team and everyone has a very clued up, and they have also a lot of experience in motorsport. But I think my assistance just adds a little bit more than maybe unless you're not a driver, you can't really add. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here and happy to help.
I know nothing can compare to driving, but is this still enjoyable? Motorsport is enjoyable no matter what you do in it.
Yes, absolutely. I had to stay in it in some way, and I'm glad I did, because before it was me, now I'm pushing for, now this weekend, five kids. So yeah, I'll take their results just as they were mine, and yeah, their success, their hard times, everything just as they were mine. And yeah, it's an emotional journey, and it's actually quite satisfying when things go well, as we saw with Aleix. So yeah, I'm loving it at the minute.
Ayrton, we're very happy that you chose as well to find a way to continue in motorsport, especially for those of us who saw you racing a few years ago in the UK. Hope you continue to enjoy it, and hope for good results from your team as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the interview.
Great to hear once again from Ayrton Simmons, the Technicar driver coach. I've often said it, Claire, and I'll say it again. You can take the racing driver out of motorsport, but you can't take motorsport out of the racing driver. There is always going to be a path to come back. You can't kill that passion.
No, absolutely. And Ayrton Simmons is one of the best drivers that was out there in the UK at one point, so it's great to see him still getting involved. I thought I saw him racing last year, actually, in endurance racing, so I didn't know he had completely kind of stepped away from it, or at least felt that he was making that step into driver coach now. So great to see cars then lining up on the grid, getting the last bit of data plugged into their laptops to try and work out exactly how they're going to win this one. On pole position, as you can see there, is Vivek Kanthan. And he's going to be feeling pretty mixed bag at this point, don't you think, Jake? He's obviously shown that he's got the qualifying pace in both wet and dry conditions. He also proved that he could win, but unfortunately had that taken away due to various penalties. And now he's on pole position again with a whole nother chance. But it's been a bit of an up and down weekend for him, hasn't it?
Certainly has. He's been living life in the roller coaster of battling for the top spot in the IFOS Spanish Championship in the first two races. Pedro Vichals just taking a couple of laps around the circuit to get to know it from the safety car's point of view. But yeah, to come back to the conversation we had there with Ayrton Simmons, it makes a lot of sense for him to come out here to be a driver coach with the IFOS Spanish Championship. Of course, he is born Ayrton Miguel Simmons Fernandez, because of course he has mixed parentage, both English and Spanish parents, and of course he has a big history here. He actually lived in the Madrid neighbourhood of Vallecas from the age of 4 to 14 before switching to Epping Forest in the United Kingdom to go through his racing journey. So, and you were absolutely right, he did last compete in the 2024 Le Mans Cup with Murphy racing team, so he's obviously been part of the sports car and single-seater journey for a long time, so his upbringing makes him absolutely perfect to help out the contenders here at Technicar and working with young Spanish drivers as they continue to run their course up the ladder. Vivek Kanthan, the New York City sensation, a brilliant drive to victory yesterday, sadly taken away from him in the steward's office, and then his race lasting no more than 35 seconds yesterday after a difficulty with Aleix Pineda. They came together, and unfortunately Kanthan went sideways, got tagged by Andrei Petrovic, and then got rammed by Pablo Ricardo. Everybody perfectly okay, and I have to say the halo doing its job, particularly for Pablo Ricardo, who took a very hefty hit head-on into the side of Vivek Kanthan's car, but everybody okay. Noah Monteiro, the Portuguese talent, Spanish Winter Championship winner as well. And no doubt all eyes are going to be on him. He had a bit of a slow start to the Winter Championship before things really started to kick on apace. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if this was the beginning of his renaissance. Lots of people on the stream cheering for the pole. Boris Leeson, he's got a big following back home, Claire. And this boy is definitely starting to showcase what he can do.
Yeah, what an exciting weekend he's had so far. I mean, he's had some great qualifying sessions. You see there a little fist pump with his engineers and his team, and he seems ready to go. And we've spoken so much over the last couple of races that this is really a place to showcase your talent. It is the steps that you need, early steps that you need to head into the next bigger steps that you want to do. So Formula 3, you go up as you go up. And this is the point where everyone's watching. This is the point. This is almost like your CV of racing. So you go, look, this is what I can do. This is how I can get better. This is how I learn. And this is what he has such a massive chance of doing. And Boris Leeson can see it. He knows that at this point, he can showcase his talent. And another person here, starting 5th on the grid, is Ty Fisher for Griffin Core. And he's also had a really impressive weekend. Just a bit of a silent assassin.
Yeah, the Canadians really starting to turn some heads now. P5 in wet qualifying this morning. Definitely a key player in this one if he can get it all working together. We saw Nathan Ty there as well. He's got a bit of support from Wearer Tools, who are, of course, the corporate partners of the Motorsport UK British Karting Championship. So it's great to see that they're following one of their protégés from the past. Red Bull, meanwhile, following the amazing career path of Rocco Coronel, flamboyant in Ginetta Juniors, exceptional in the Spanish Winter Championship, already a double winner in the F4 Spanish Championship. A lot of the fans watching along on the stream from back home in the Netherlands, pitching him for a hat-trick. I have to say, if he's going to do it, that would be spectacular from P6 to the victory. I've seen crazier things at F4 in single-seater level, but he's definitely going to have his work cut out for him. Casper Schulman's P7, Dan Kelleher P8, Luna Fleischer P9, and Mickey Blashkos in P10. We'll go through the grid in full very shortly, but there's plenty of decent players to go for it. At the beginning of a season when there's only 9 experienced drivers in the field, Claire, in a field of 35. That means you've got 24 rookies. It really is open and shut to try and figure out who's going to get the best of it.
Yeah, but I think that's what's so exciting, isn't it? You know, that we're getting to see a bit like Ayrton Simmons just said, you know, starting the next generation of racing drivers. And that's what's so exciting, isn't it? To see who is going to come through next. Here's the starting grid then, Jake.
Yes, indeed. Vivek Canthan and Noah Montero, Griffin Core front row. Big opportunity for those two to go to the corner side by side at turn 1. Bodish Leeson alongside Sheffield's very own man of steel, Nathan Ty. Ty Fisher alongside Rocco Coronel, Canada versus the Netherlands into turn 1. Row 4 will see Casper Schormans alongside the Irishman Dan Kelleher. And rounding out the top 10, Luna Flusha gives the women something to cheer about watching at home. And Miki Blashkos, her countryman, alongside. Row 6 on the grid. For Malta, it's Jakub Mikelev. For Serbia, it's Andrej Petrovic. He'll want to recover from P12. Jensen Burnett of Canada alongside the American Rahim Alibai. Row 8 of the grid will see Shimon Bolbolella alongside Felipe Rice of the Netherlands for MP. Row 9 of the grid sees Elliot Kaczynski for Sweden alongside Nashotunion, the second of the T-code by Amtog drivers. And rounding out the top 20, we have Louis Cochet alongside Pablo Riccobono, recovered after his incident yesterday. Alexander Chartier, the Canadian with an Italian licence, alongside Alice Pineda, who got 2 podiums yesterday. Zoe Florescu of Bucharest alongside the Greek Jean-Paul Carras. Twin brother Philippe is right behind in the G4. And then Fausto Arnaldo, the Argentine, will definitely be battling through from P26. Boloet of Belgium for TC Racing. Sebastian Frigole, the Mexican, for DXR is next up. Rounding up the top 30, it's going to be an interesting one for the contenders behind. 29th on the grid for Samorus. The South African Jordan Moodley is P30. Then 5 rookies. Sandro Perez, Max Radek, Alphonse Mittenen, Rodrigo Martinez, and the third and final female on the grid, the Portuguese talent, Maria Germanonito, the former works driver for Tony Kart. And the Portuguese will keep the TC Racing team, named after their team owner, Thibaut Courtois, the former national goalkeeper for Belgium. Very much honest. Right, we've got a car in pit lane. That's not good news for the Monlau Competition squad, and it's the 88. That is already a very disastrous situation for Miki Blashkos, who is supposed to be starting from P10, and it looks to me as though he's going to be starting from pit lane, Claire.
Yeah, disappointment there. Great qualifying session. And at the moment, as you can imagine, they're getting the screwdrivers out and they're going to see what's happened. So they'll take the rear of the car off, I think, at this point and see exactly what's going on. But he hasn't got long to find out. And as the cars come round to the start-finish straight, it looks like he's either not going to be starting or starting definitely from the pit lane.
So let's see if we're going to have a clean start from the outset. Vivek Canthan and Noah Montero on the front row of the grid. Alex Garcia's got the information down on the pit lane from Miki Blashkos. What can you tell us, mate?
Yep, exactly. That's you've seen that, but Miki Blashkos was wheeled into the pit lane because apparently the car was not starting. So they're going to wheel him at the end of the pit lane and see if they can make the car right by the time that these guys get on track, and hopefully he can start the race. It's a shame he was starting from the top 10.
Okay, thanks for that. We're running short on time for them to get started, so let's see if it's going to be an exciting battle for them. Noah Montero will certainly take his position on the front row of the grid. He wants to jump Vivek Canthan. Get ready for the F4 Spanish Championship Race 3. Jake Sanson and Claire Cottingham in the commentary box with Alex Garcia down in pit lane. The green flag flies at the back of the grid. Vivek Canthan on your left, Noah Montero on your right. Lights on for the last time this weekend. Let's race to Valencia! Fantastic start from Noah Montero, but a better start from Bodish Leeson. Looks like the pole may actually get his move on the outside line to try and squeeze Noah Montero to the braking zone. He's trying to force the issue and tuck it right round the outside. Beautiful start from Leeson into P2. Rocco Coronel's made a flyer as well from P6 up to P4. And Noah Montero's really going to struggle to hold this man off as round the outside comes Nathan Ty, the Sheffield Steelmeister, into P4. Round the outside of Rocco Coronel. Great work from Nathan Ty as we get a clean start right in the Sector 1 corners. We're still getting a little bit of sliding. Couple of drivers kicking out wide. 37, Ty Fisher just about keeps it on the island as Noah Montero's having big pressure now. That's going to be Nathan Ty. Round to the far side. Can Ty hold this round the outside and pick up the move? Third position. Very close in the offing. Can Ty hold this? He's going to keep it side by side with Noah Montero. Montero's going to get squeezed onto the curb. They almost bang wheels. Montero will have the inside line, and they nudge each other sideways. Coronel's going to pick up the undercut, and he might be able to get the move in a third. This is wonderful for Catherine and Legion. They're disappearing, and who's going to get third? Ty is going to hold his nerve on the inside, and it will be the Englishman who picks up third position. Incredible racecraft.
Oh, that's a brilliant start. Actually, Jake, let's stick with you.
Montero still having a good run. Oh, Ty's gone wide. Ty's gone completely wide through the gravel. It's a greasy, slippery circuit like we said. Goodness me, very tricky stuff as Nathan Ty struggled, and now he's got damage. Something's not right. The back end of the car is smoking, so I wonder if he's picked up some problems on the underside of the car as he's kicked it over the curbs. But it's Canton leading. Legion, Montero, Coronel, Shulmans, Fisher, Flusher and Petrovic. Kelleher from Nathan Ty all the way down to P10. And it's Skittles on the way down to turn 1. Up on the inside line, that is Luna Flusher pressuring Ty Fisher for P6. What a start to Luna Flusher's season as she now tries to work her way round the outside. This could be a top 5 finish in the offing for the Spanish talent. And as they work their way through the first sector, very exciting stuff again. Drivers working very hard indeed as the competitors continue to move their way further forward. Very exciting run. So through they come. 27 minutes and 35 seconds now on the clock. We are well into the action. And so the battle is raging. Here comes Nathan Ty making his move on the inside. So Ty picking up his battle to get past Ty Fisher. That puts him back into 8th place, but there's so much more ground for him to make up after that moment. Oh, spin in front! That's gone terribly wrong. Is that Flusher? Is that Flusher making her battle and buried into the gravel? We're going to get a safety car.
Yes, Flusher. Oh, that's so disappointing. I was literally just about to say Luna Flusher had a brilliant start from 9th, and I would love to have seen her restart to see how she managed to get her way up to 6th. And we've got another spin as well. That's car number 5. That's further down at the back. I can't quite see who that would be. Jake, who
Sandra Perez. Sandra Perez
from the back. Right.
Yeah, well, there is the Stradale safety car making its way back out onto the course. And that is very disappointing news indeed for both Luna Flusher and Sandro Perez. Miki Blashkos is still sat in pit lane having not got started, so he was never going to get out onto the circuit. Perez has recovered, so he'll join the back of the queue. I'm afraid to say Luna Flusher will not, as her car is well and truly bedded into the gravel trap. That's so unfortunate. We saw how strong she was in the Spanish Winter Championship with that valiant drive at Portimao to 2nd place. So we know she's got the talent and the ability to be in the top 3 overall, but unfortunately the wet patches will catch out even the most experienced of drivers. And Luna Flusher learns the hard way that this is going to be a tough year in F4 Spanish Championship.
Yeah, such a shame. Such a good qualifying session and a really promising race out there. Safety car then out as they look to remove Luna Flusher from the gravel. And thankfully, though, Sandra Perez got going again on their own. They had qualified all the way back in 31st, but it looked like they spun on their own. And this is what Alex was talking about from the pit lane, these tiny little wet patches that probably to our eye wouldn't show a lot, but because they are such sensitive tyres that even if you catch it just off the racing line, you can spin and it causes drama for your entire race. It'd be good to see exactly what happened to Luna and how she managed to get herself into the gravel. But yeah, such a disappointment. A big winner though of this whole race so far, you have to say, is Boris Lizon, because that was a brilliant start. Here we go then, we've got a replay coming up.
This is how it happened. We're going to see what happens a little bit further up, but we're only going to see the end of the incident. That looks to me as though that was self-induced for Luna Flusher. I didn't see anybody else around her making contact. This is Nathan Ty's error. Montero trying to go up the inside, but look, the back end of the car is washing out before there was even contact. So that was Nathan Ty finding out how slippery it was to the outside line. So that was no contact either. Greasy conditions. We did say there was some rain and damp patches around the course, Claire. So no surprises that they were going to find it a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned to Alex at the beginning of the race. I said, are we going to see a couple of these rookies, and not even just rookies, some of the, more experienced drivers could easily get caught out by these small little wet patches. We saw rain this morning. Qualifying was wet this morning. Wonder what they're talking about. I always think that with the safety car guys. What are you having a chat about? But I always, you're getting caught out by these little tiny wet patches on these tyres that are not designed for wet conditions. And it's not saying that it's a wet track. Nobody is saying that. What we're saying is there's these tiny little puddles that just cause disruption for these cars. And we've seen that already for a couple of times. But this track is constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. It's constantly warming up. And if we don't see any more rain out there, which Alex said at the moment we're not, the conditions will improve. And actually, they'll find these little wet patches fewer and fewer as they go round.
Yeah, if you've ever ridden a push bike or rode a motorcycle when it's been raining out and you get a damp patch you run through, for the next 30 seconds or so, the tyres are always going to be a little bit sketchy. Well, magnify that by 5 for these cars, because these do not have grooves in the tyres. They are pure slicks, so it's very tricky indeed. And these guys doing an amazing job to keep it on the island as much as they have. Alex Garcia just reminding us that the safety car, the new Epic-induced Dallara Stradale that we have, is currently clocking around the circuit here at 1 minute 55, which is a full 25 seconds quicker than the safety car we had last season. So it tells you quite a lot about the immense work that's been developed into this safety car to actually improve the overall feel for the drivers and make sure that the tyre temperatures are up to scratch. MP in communication with their drivers. And of course their man, Rocco Coronel, up to P4. Cracking start from him from P6. It's still very much game on for him. He could still pitch for a hat-trick of victories from there. This restart is going to be crucial, but very good work indeed from the Dutchman to put himself into that position. Safety car in this lap. So that's exactly what we wanted to hear.
Yeah, you can see Vivek Kanthan just starting to back up the pack, getting as much heat in their tyres as they can. Safety car going to come in, and this is the important time for Vivek Kanthan to almost not trick the drivers behind, but give them no time to react to him pulling away.
So in comes Pedro Virchas in the Dallara Stradale safety car. I'd love to be a passenger in that. I have actually had the experience of being a passenger in a safety car during a live race. Look at the camera lens. We've got spots of rain on the camera lens. It's getting more intense now. So this is going to be tricky. And all the drivers are on slick tyres. So this could be a really difficult restart for everybody. But as they come off the final turn, they will plunge down the straight. It's a good restart from Vivek Kanthan by the look of it, and it's green once again here at Valencia as Kanthan tries to pull clear from Legion. Montero, Coronel, Shormans, Petrovic, Ty, Fisher, Kelleher and Mikilev, with Burnett in 11th in front of Kaczynski. Side by side, that's Nathan Ty getting his move on the inside of Ty Fisher. So the British driver has already picked off one car as side by side Coronel is trying to get past Noah Montero any which way he can find. He kicks out to the side curb to try and move his way further forward. Lots of badinage from the drivers further back as well as they work their way further forward. There is definitely more rain falling on the camera lens as they work their way out of the first sector. And so Kanthan trying to extend his gap to Legion, but I tell you what, the pole is really comfortable in these conditions. He can really put the hammer down and find a little bit more banter with the race leader. Speaking of banter, Ty is going wheel to wheel, almost locking horns here with Petrovic in the T-code. These two battled several times over the course of the Spanish Winter Championship, most notably, of course, at Jarama. They had a great wheel to wheel in the beginning of the season, but Ty is able to finish off the move there on Petrovic. That puts him back into P6, so he's definitely making good headway as Petrovic locks up. 37 right in the toe, that's Ty Fisher, then Kelleher, Mikilev, Burnett, Kaczynski, Tunion, Alibai, Riccobono, Balbarella and Rice as they continue to get these tyres back up to temperature. Incident involving car 5 on turn 6 is noted. That is of course Sandro Perez before we had the safety car come out, or as the safety car come out I should say. 20 minutes left and we still don't know how intense this rain is going to get, but Kanthan leads the way. Legion in second, Montero in third from Coronel, Shormans, Ty, Petrovic, Fisher, Kelleher and Mikilev.
Great restart then by Kanthan at the front, and also really good reactions as well from second place at the moment, which is Lison. It's hard in these conditions because not only have we've said that, and it's all kind of going on a little bit now, Jake. It's all getting a bit busy out there as everyone's trying to overtake each other. But this rain is starting to get a little bit heavier. We've heard this from Alex Garcia already. Are we going to see this rain get a little bit more ferocious out there, which is really going to cause some issues for all these drivers? We've got a yellow flag then out at the moment. Race control saying there's a yellow flag out. I can't see for why, Jake. Can you?
Let's have a look at it. It looks like it could be in Sector 3. I think it's Jean-Paul Carras. Yes, it is. There he is. So Jean-Paul Carras in the G4 recovering. So it's now up to his twin brother to lead the G4 charge. Philippe is currently in 22nd place. So Jean-Paul recovering at the back of the field. Obviously a victim of the slipperier conditions. And that's going to be a mistake from Catherine. Bodish Leeson very nearly taking the lead away from the American. And Bodish Leeson, of course, a race winner in the Spanish Winter Championship, but that was on a reverse grid race. He pulled away, and his confidence has really kicked up since then. A win today would be very different for circumstances. No reverse grids in the F4 Spanish Championship in 2026. This is a different ball game altogether. If you win, you've got to knuckle down and take it from the man up front. And Bodish Leeson is really putting Canthan under pressure. Look, Canthan trying to break the toe as he swarms around down the straight. Leeson on him now like a bee around a hive as the yellow flags come out again. Now we're trying to figure out who it is that's come off the road this time, but certainly yellow flags are present once again. They're just coming through. Oh, that's a beach. So that is, I'm afraid, Max Radek. Max Radek for DXR, and that's going to bring out the safety car yet again.
Oh, such a shame. I mean, Max Redex had qualified quite far back, so maybe having some issues out there anyway. He started 32nd, but just as those tyres were getting back up to speed, they were all going to have to slow down again and go behind the safety car for a couple more minutes as they remove that car from the gravel. Now, these tyres, they take time to heat back up, and once they slow back down again, you can see the weaving there means that they're trying to get this heat into the tyres, because if they don't, they'll run the risk of sliding off the track. And again, we've not heard any more updates about whether this rain is going to come out. Safety car pulls back out for the second time in this race as we remove another car from the gravel.
Gracias, Pedro. Great to see him come back out onto the circuit once again to bunch up the field once again. Certainly a faster machine in 2026 than we've had in previous years, and that makes it easier for us to keep the tyres under pressure. Right, let's regroup and look at the state of play. Canthan, Legion, Montero top three, then Coronel, Casper Schormans and Nathan Ty. The MP engineers just keeping up to date with what's going on and keeping Bodish Leeson in the KCL satellite team, as well as Rocco Coronel and Casper Schormans, their Dutch charges, informed of what's going on. Petrovic P7 from Fischer, Kelleher, Mikilev and Jensen Burnett just outside the points at the moment. But this is going to be fascinating on the restart. Driver is okay, we're told. So that is good news in Max Redek's recovery. No issues there. And that was the same for Luna Flusha. A disappointing end to the race, but the good news is that everybody is A-OK. So we've got 32 of the 35 drivers. Right, there is Max Redek walking away from the scene. It always baffles me that these drivers are still only 15, 16 years of age. Some of them look like they should be still back at the school desk. Never mind being at a racetrack, pounding around at over 100 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? The speed of these drivers, and you know, we hold them to account when they're driving, but you know, sometimes you have to remember, like you say, they're only 15 years old, and they need their time to learn, and this is what this whole field is about. Max himself is 16 years old, so that's a 16-year-old that's currently caught his car in the gravel. You know, it's a lot to take in. What I would say is both Luna Flusha and Max Radex, they both just kind of lost it on their own, I think, at this point. So it's kind of nice to see that they're all okay and just in the gravel, but yeah, disappointing, of course, for all teams out there. But more disappointing at this point is that we were, because of the safety car, we've kind of had that battle of the restart taken away from us for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, and Legion was really starting to roll on the pace to Canthan there. There were a couple of moments he was starting to look in to try and make those moments work in his favour, and it just hasn't quite developed yet. But we've got 15 minutes on the clock. Safety car in this lap, so we are going to get a push for the restart then. And Vivek Canthan is really going to have his work cut out to keep Bodish Leeson and possibly even Montero and Coronel at bay.
Yeah, Cantham under pressure then. Let's see what he does. He's going to do exactly what he did last time. Safety car comes in and he'll back up the pack again and see once again if he can kind of get the better start. But I'm interested to see here how much Boris Lison's got left in the tyres, and can he start seeing if he can take the win away from Vivek Cantham. This is the fight that we want to be seeing.
So Pedro Vilchals brings the safety car, the Dallara Stradale, back into the pit lane. Love this car so much. I cannot wait to get my hands on it on the simulator, and I have a feeling I'll get a chance maybe one day if I beg and plead with the officials to get me out there as a passenger one day. But now it's all eyes to the restart. Vivek Cantham, Boris Lison, Noah Montero and Rocco Coronel are going to be coming out of the course. Are they already Flot on the throttle? Yes, they are. So Cantham has already dropped the hammer as they come through. Green flags, and it's green, 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 green once again here at Valencia. And already Vivek Cantham is trying to break the toe. He knows how quick Legion is going to be on the restart. Montero has got tyres up to temperature very well by the look of it, because he's already putting on the steam to try and close up on the KCL car in front of him. But he's had a bit of a wobble as several drivers have run wide. Now Coronel with a chance to leapfrog past the Portuguese. Boris Lison got away with that run wide, and as they chase after Cantham, everybody trying to get the tyres back up to speed. Look at the drivers running wide on the exit of turn 2 as they try to get these cars turned in. It will feel like a bag of understeer as they work their way through. Back onto the curbs as they push out. Legion swarming around behind Vivek Cantham. Montero holding his nerve from Coronel. Ty's going for broke on the inside of Casper Schormans. Is there going to be enough space? They bang wheels. They trade paint as they go down the short stretch towards the next apex. Casper Schormans absolutely adamant. That is not an overtaking move, Nathan. You're going to have to work harder than that. So he obliges and absolutely slam dunks on the inside of the hairpin. But he's going to have a very brave move on the inside left to make his way through. And he's done it. Goodness me, Nathan Ty certainly cutting the crop at both ends. He worked very hard there, and that was a move straight out of his father, Nathan Ty Sr.'s playbook. He himself a brisker Formula 2 stock car racer, and Nathan Ty certainly a man of steel in that wheel-to-wheel hustle with Casper Schormans. Meanwhile, Petrovic holding on in front of Ty Fisher. Then Kelleher, Mikulev, Burnett, Kaczynski, Dugnon, Barbarella and Ricardo. Oh, spin for Petrovic! Petrovic loses the car completely. And that is going to cause us an issue. It was their contact on the way through. Petrovic finds himself on the curb. Everybody else is just trying to dash across the line and pick up a place if they can. Side by side for Kaczynski, trying to get the move on the inside of Ty Fisher. Can Kaczynski finish that off? No, he has to bail out of it. It's Dugnon makes the bid on Mikulev. So Dugnon and Mikulev, they run slightly wide. And I need to really figure out who it is that was involved in that, because it wasn't just Petrovic. I think we had a couple of drivers engaged in that as well, dropping down the order. But certainly Andrej Petrovic is the big scalp, and it looks as though he can't get going again. So Andrej Petrovic, he'll be on the far side line. He has now managed to get going. Green flags initiated once again, but there's still more rain in the air. And these cars are going to feel like slippers on marble floor at the moment. Really tricky for these cars to try and find a little bit more grip out there. But Claire, this is really tough stuff, and these youngsters finding it very tricky to find the traction they need.
And I was just about to say that Petrovic had such a good restart, qualified further back after not finishing the race yesterday as well, having the car rebuilt, and then unfortunately, just as he was about to battle and get involved in the top 6, he unfortunately spun. And like you said, I'd love to see what happened there, because it was just in the top right of our screen, and suddenly you and I both noticed a car facing the wrong way, and it could be no one else apart from Petrovic at that point.
Such a shame for Petrovic. I wonder if there's a slight issue on the front wing there for the 32. That is going to be a problem for Simon Barbarella, the Argentine in the Drivex. He's really going to struggle. Now, of course, there's less downforce in these cars than a Formula 1. So a Grand Prix car, if they lose their front wing, they've got no choice. They can bring it back into the pits. It's going to be tough for an F4 Spanish driver to keep it out there, but I have seen it happen before. They stay out because the time you lose getting... Oh, into the gravel! That is Sebastian Frigolet. The Mexican's got damage to the left front wheel. So that is going to be our third safety car visit for absolute certain. A beach there for Sebastian Frigolet. And that is the Mexican who already had some difficulties over the course of things. Oh, and that's Kaczynski. Kaczynski's in the gravel. Well, the Swede was definitely having a better weekend this weekend than he had in the Winter Championship, but Kaczynski's fallen off the road. So that guarantees it. Safety car will surely come out.
I wonder if we could speak to Alex and see if that rain's just slightly got a bit heavy. You can see on the camera there, this is our roaming camera that's in the pit lane, and there is a little bit of water on that camera lens. And if I tell you for free, the amount of times that camera people and operators clean their lenses, that'll show how quickly that rain has hit that lens. So unfortunate there, we're seeing both drivers getting out, so that's the most important thing at this point. But disappointment then, and another safety car. So not what you want to see for Sebastian Frigolet. Here's the replay then.
So this is the run wide, and you just caught the gravel. Whoa, my goodness! That is a proper airborne moment for Frigolet. He is so lucky that the car didn't barrel roll across the main straight. Such a bizarre incident. We're going to see into the first corner. This is the Petrovic-Kaczynski, the Nacho Tunion-Kaczynski moment as Tunion goes for broke on Kaczynski. The Swede loses the car after the contact and is embedded in the gravel. Chaos in this third race of the weekend. Just a little bit of drizzle, and that's what it means. We saw briefly Simon Barbarella coming into the pits as well to repair the front wing. So it's up to Pedro Villas in the Dallara Stradale safety car to control the pace of the field once again. But how lucky was Sebastian Frigolet not to end up upside down?
I almost thought maybe he'd lost it on his own on a bit of wet, but that was definitely an airborne car that you don't usually see. And like you say, it's so lucky that it only got airborne at that point, wasn't near a curb or anything like that. It just, went up in the air and made it. But, you're going to have to say Sebastian Frigolet is going to feel that one in the morning, because the speed and the impact of the car hitting back down onto the tarmac, it's a heavy impact. So it's good to see them both out of the car. Let's put it like that for Sebastian Frigolet especially.
So Kaczynski walks away. Petrovic gets a chance now to rejoin the back of the field in 30th. So we're losing them, aren't we? They're dropping like flies. Kaczynski, Frigolet, Radek, Flusha, and of course the non-starter originally was Miki Blaskos. Pedro just keeping it nice and tidy in the Dallara Stradale safety car. Love this beast of a machine. It is fantastic. Barbarella came into the pits a short while ago to change the front wing of the car. So obviously needs must there for the Argentine, and that will put him down to 29th position in front of Andrej Petrovic. Down at the tail end of the field, we've had a little bit of a rotation of positions. I tell you who's really benefited from all of this chaos is the Portuguese lady, Maria Germano Nito. She started dead last, and she's now 20th. Zoe Florescu's made great progress as well to P19. So they are making fantastic, good opportunities here. Down in pit lane, Alex Garcia can tell us a little more about the rain and about perhaps Barbarella's visit to the pits. What's happening, buddy?
Well, I'm just bringing you a little bit of an update on the rain. We have been having a little bit more rain for a while, and while it's not necessarily getting stronger compared to maybe 8-10 minutes ago, it has stayed as the way it was. And so considering that it is a bit more rainy than it was at the start of the race, I think some parts of the circuit have been getting a little bit more damp, as I guess it's kind of evidenced by the amount of mistakes that we're seeing on the last few laps, at least the last few before the safety car. And yeah, we're seeing just now the trackside assistance system marshals taking the car away from the main straight. We can just see it in front of us, but it's still going to take a little bit. That car is being lifted right as I speak. So perhaps I would say 1 or 2 more laps before we can have that situation cleared. Or I would say 1 more at least, yeah.
Okay, thanks Alex. Good to get your update on that one as the drivers find themselves back into the long line. Canthan from Legion. We're running out of time though on the restart. If the rain is going to intensify a little bit again, Claire, they're only going to have about 4.5 minutes or so when the race restarts. You've got to make good use of that return to the format.
Yeah, it's the worst time for the rain really to come in, isn't it? You want it to happen either earlier in the race or not at all. So at this point, all of the teams will be looking to the skies thinking, please don't rain, just hold off for 5 more minutes. Let's just get round to the finishing part of this race. Because also, they don't want to see another safety car out. These cars, like we said, they're all on slicks. And they're going to be a bit colder in the tyres. I mean, we've had quite a lot of the race now. It's a 30-minute race, so we've only got 5 minutes left. But they have to slow down by the safety car. And then it does disrupt the temperature in the tyres. So we've got 5 minutes left on the clock, plus 1 lap. We need this safety car in, really, so that we can get a real sprint to the end.
And safety car will be in this lap, so that's great news. 5-second penalty to Pablo Ricardo for exerting track limits, and he's currently running in 13th on the circuit, so that is disastrous with the safety car. That's going to plummet him down the order. So they're just making sure that the final T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. The safety car leaves the circuit, and it's up to Canthan once again to control the pace of this race. He will never have been more determined to get a victory in the board. Having had his win taken away from him yesterday, this will be a proper test of Vivek Canthan's resolve. Discipline, patience, calm maturity is what's going to get you to the checkered flag. Now, they're all waiting for Canthan to drop the hammer and go for it. He's going to have to be tactical as to when he does it. I've known drivers in the F1 Spanish Championship go early, go median, which will be on the approach to the final turn, or leave it as late as up and over the top of the crest. In comes Pedro Vilchas in the safety car, and Canthan once again drops it as they go through the final turn. He will want to get clear of Lesion, but he's not going to have it easy. One more time then, we go green, 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 and with 4 minutes or so on the clock plus the additional lap, it's time to get out of the way of the drivers around you and really put on the steam. Here's Kasper Schaumann trying to go round the outside of Nathan Ty. They bang wheels. How close was that to a big impact as Ty holds his nerve on the inside, leaves Kasper Schaumann no room for negotiation. He tries to come back on the circuit, and Ty is like a brick wall. He will not let him have any space, and so Ty holds his position. That was relentless and ruthless from both Ty and Schaumann. Big holds barred racing coming in from these two. And right behind them we've got Dan Kelleher trying to make his move. If he can get up on the inside of these two, he will try and take that as well. Canthan, Lesion, Montero, Coronel, Ty and Schaumann from Kelleher, Burnett, Tunion and Ty Fisher. Then Mikilev, Rahim Alibai, Pablo Ricardo, Felipe Rice, Louis Cochet, Alish Pinheira, then Arnaldo, Loet, Florescu, Neto, Caras, Chartier and Sandro Perez. So everybody keeping it nice and tidy, but this is when things are going to get very sketchy indeed. The rain is still falling, and it will be very difficult indeed to see where the grip is going to come from. Lesion is absolutely launching on Vivek Canthan in some of these slow apexes. Big lockups coming in as drivers are trying to find their feet. Too much exertion on the brake pedal, and you're going to turn these very fast little racing cars with their tyres looking like 50 pence pieces as they roll through the apexes up the crest, and then they'll drop down once again. So this is where Canthan really has to work hard to keep Lesion off his tail, but the pole is working so hard indeed. Boris Lesion, part of the Orlen Academy run that has looked after so many prominent Polish drivers over the years, including the likes of Robert Kubica, Maciej Gladish, who is now in FIA Formula 3, and of course Jan Pirowski, who will see battling for the title in the Euro Cup 3 season later this year, along with Kasper Stuka. Down the main straight, we've already got some badinage here, as that is Philippe Carras trying to work his way further forward. Oh, sorry, that's Jean-Paul Carras. Battling away for position in there with his twin brother. They've managed to catch each other up after the fracas earlier on. And so now the two brothers who actually carry different liveries on their two G4 racing cars. It's never easy when the twins are next to each other. Bit of a run wide there from the 8. That is Mikilev, and he's going to lose out to Ty Fisher. As a result, the teammates have got to be careful they don't take each other out. That's the cardinal sin of motor racing. You can race each other hard and fair, but whatever you do, don't swipe each other out of the race. But fantastic racing in the midfield. Ricardo trying to pick up a piece or two further up the road as well from these boys, because he's going to have a 5-second penalty to add to his time, so he needs to gain as much as he can. Oh, Mikilev's been given a 5-second time penalty for track limits as well. So this is disastrous. So too Sandro Perez, so too Philippe Carras. So everybody's running the gauntlet now. These wet conditions, these damp moments on the circuit, Claire, really costing these drivers in track limits exertion.
That's why we talked about it so much before we came into the race, because these little patches are what are going to catch these drivers out. We must remind you, they're not on wet weather tyres, and they shouldn't be, because the wet weather tyres would not last out here. They're on slicks, so they are very smooth tyres out there. So any rain just slightly disrupts them. What I would say at this point is that Lesion has pulled back just a little bit there from the leader, as we see another move going on here along the start-finish straight, Jake.
That's Rice trying to go round the outside of Ricardo, who's already had his moments. That's amazing! What a fantastic, brave manoeuvre from Felipe Rice to commit to that round the outside. We've got drivers really stretching the limits as they go down to the braking zone, almost 4 wide into the hairpin, as these guys are really pushing it to the ragged edge, but drivers are having to use the runoff area in order to get themselves back onto the circuit in fine stead. They're really going to run the gauntlet. This new track limit system is really going to punish the drivers. I tell you who's on a final warning for track limits. Vivek Kanthan, the race leader, is on a final warning for track limits. So he got him on it. Oh, problems as the two men, Ricardo tangles with Louis Cochet. They're both in the gravel. Cochet keeps his foot in, gets out of the gravel, but Ricardo is ending the race there. And with time out, there could be a safety car finish here.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, isn't it? I was just watching the time tick down, think we've got one more lap to go. And actually, I think as it stands, if they remain in the gravel, unfortunately, that could be the race finishing under the safety car, which would be a massive shame because it was all started. Yeah, it's under a safety car, I'm afraid, at this point, with Ricardo stuck there, as you can see, unfortunately not moving out of the car, looks frustrated with himself, and not surprising. It's so difficult with so many cars on the track, but it is the final lap. We haven't seen the safety car out yet. They might just put yellows out to keep the racing going. We have seen that before. It's not in a particularly too unsafe area as Luna Flusha watches by, but it looks like we're still going.
Yeah, they're going to keep it at yellow flags at turn 6 by the look of it, so they'll just be a radio message to all the drivers to remind them turn 6 is yellow, do not overtake. And so the rest of the circuit, we are going to finish under green. That is fantastic work from the officials. This new radio system definitely giving them the opportunity to make sure that the drivers are aware of what the situation is. They are trusting them that they will be able to judge the situation accordingly. This is turn 6, so there'll be no overtaking on this part of the course. That's where they come out. They pass the scene, so yeah, they can run to the flag. Rocco Coronel not getting the best of restarts here to drop back to 4th position, but he will still lead the championship coming out of this weekend with a P4 and a 2nd place in rookie. Montero banking in good points in 3rd position, trying to hustle the 2 leaders up front, but Bodish Leeson still fancies one final crack at the whip. Can he get ahead of Vivek Kanthan? There's a couple of corners to go. We've seen drivers make errors on the climb up this ascension, so let's see if Kanthan can hold it strong. He runs wide. He can't afford to make too many errors on track limits, even with a couple of corners to go. That could cost him. Bodish Leeson trying to keep him honest all the way to the checkered flag. Kanthan drifts out wide of the final turn. Lesion's going to keep him honest, but it is going to be a victory for Vivek Kanthan. He will dominate this race, and Kanthan sees the checkered flag. It's the American that vanquishes the foes. Lesion in 2nd, Montero 3rd from Coronel, Ty and Casper Schurmans. Great opening weekend for the F4 Spanish Championship, and a great start to the battle between the Griffin Core duo and the KCL MPs. Even with broken and battered cars, the drivers come home. And a fantastic run. Well, that was tricky, and certainly the very trickiest of races that the drivers could ever have ended up. So what a battle it is going to be then for the contenders. Luna Flusha given a hug from the team. You've given everything that you could have got. She'll be disappointed, but she knows that Campos have got her back. But she'll be back for the rest of the season to showcase what she can do. We already know she's a podium finisher in the F4 Spanish Championship paddock. She got that done in her 2nd ever car race in the Spanish Winter Championship earlier this year in Portimao. But Vivek Kanthan, this is not his first rodeo. He gets the victory. Hopefully this time he'll be able to keep it.
Yeah, brilliant work from Vivek Kanthan. Let's fingers crossed on that one, because he was on his last warning, wasn't he, for track limits. And with everything going on just at the end of the race, I really hope that that is lights to flag victory for Vivek Kanthan, because I think after the weekend he's had, he could do with it, to be honest, because taking away the first win of the first round yesterday, and then crashing out in the 2nd race yesterday as well, and then coming into today and getting pole position and hopefully keeping this win. That's the way it is at the moment. Provisionally, he is the winner of the 3rd race here in Valencia, and it has to be said that the 2nd place driver of Boris Lizon, he tried incredibly hard to get around that Griffin Core car, didn't he? KCL Motorsport will be incredibly pleased with his weekend and how he performed. And also, one driver I would say is the teammate of Vivek Kanthan, Griffin Core's, the teammate rather at Griffin Core, which is Montero. He had quite a quiet race at the end, didn't he? I thought he was battling. It was like the race director knew who I was talking about. He was battling it out, wasn't he, at the beginning, and then almost just dropped back a bit from the top 2. It's a very difficult race, I would say, at this point, when you have so many safety cars that disrupt a race. It's really hard to get back into the rhythm. But that top 4 drivers, I would say, have really impressed. And it has to be also said that Nathan Ty, who battled so hard, didn't he, with Castor Schurmans, just at the end, will be incredibly pleased also with his 5th place finish.
Yeah, both Noel Montero and Nathan Ty really getting some decent points on the board. Montero in particular just keeping it out of danger. That's what he's so good at. I've always said at this level, yeah, absolutely. For these drivers, it's so important. If you can't win the race, get a 3rd, get a 4th, get a 5th, get a 6th. You keep cranking in those points in the championship fight, you've got a great chance to be champion. I've always said one of the most important parts of the feeder series, Daddy, it's not what you do when you win races, it's what you do when you don't that matters. And Vivek Kanthan, fabulous race performance from him. He climbs the Griffin Core machine once again and puts the victory to bed. Wonderful job from the American, and once more the engineers will greet him. Hopefully this time there will be no change to the order. There will be no victory taken away from him on this occasion, and the American will hopefully get to keep the win he richly deserves.
Yeah, let's see what he has to say to Alex down in the pit lane as well. Hopefully pleased with his weekend. So much to learn for these drivers as well. We keep talking about it, but this is a real learning curve for so many of these young drivers out there. Again, as you mentioned, Jake, earlier in the race, when we saw, I think it was Max Reddick, wasn't it, that went out. He's 16 years old. These drivers are just starting their careers, and with Vivek Kanthan, he will be looking to continue to impress in this championship, and he's had his fair share of ups and downs this weekend. So as you say, let's hope that, fingers crossed, he didn't in the end at 16 years old get another win taken away from him, because provisionally he's on the top step at the moment.
A lovely hug from Vivek's father Anup, who has been very much by his side all the way through his karting journey, when they transitioned from the world of SCUSA in America to come over to Europe to be part of the Paralin factory team under the watchful gaze of so many fantastic people in the karting world. And of course, Vivek Kanthan's journey out of the FIA karting came straight into the F4 Spanish Championship last year as a novice driver. Now he and his rival Noel Montero and teammate Noel Montero are going to make Griffin Court very happy over the course of the season, I'm sure. Rocco Coronel, I think he'll be dissatisfied. I know the thirst and the hunger he's got, and he will look at 4th position and think, that could have been so much more. Casper Schurmans beside him, hoping for a little bit more from that as well. He'll go to the rookie podium, as will Rocco Coronel, but they were both beaten by the Super Pole. Boris Leeson, great race from the Polish driver.
Yeah, but you have to say, consistency again, so important at this point with Rocky Coronel. Let's head down though, because Alex has the winner. So let's hear from Vivek Kanthan himself.
Vivek Kanthan, what a weekend. There was a lot happening here in Valencia. Is this revenge though?
Yeah, I guess revenge for the second time, but no, we did, I hope, everything right this time. But yeah, more difficult race than before because we had to do the spare chassis from the crash in race 2, so that was a lot to get used to, especially in sector 2 where there's a lot of technical areas, but and it managed to do everything right with the safety cars and keep the lead.
Explain a little bit, because a lot of people at home maybe are not necessarily sure of how difficult it is to get used to a new spare chassis. People will think it's the same car. Well, it is and it isn't.
Yeah, well, this one, I mean, it's different every car, obviously, but the steering was way stiffer than what I've used to, so the car was super pointy. You could see sometimes in T1 with a lot of oversteer snaps caused by that, and then the braking zones, I only got used to it on around lap 5, but in the end, it worked out.
We're feeling the rain falling over us, but during the race, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Did you feel it on the road?
I could, especially the restarts when the tires are a bit colder, but already by T1 everything's burnt up, so everything was fine. But yeah, I just want to thank the team for an incredible job to get the chassis. They worked until midnight to get this car ready, and we showed them what we can do.
And now a small gap to the next race weekend. How are you going to prepare for that?
I get to go home and see my family. Yeah, take a little break from racing, but obviously working on the sim, working in the gym, and just come back here even stronger.
All right, Vivek, time to enjoy it now.
Thank you.
Epic stuff from Vivek Kanthan. Great to get the words with the winner, who seems a little bit more Focused on the objectives now, heading into round number 2. It's definitely going to be an easier task for Vivek Kanthan now that that race victory is under his belt, provided that the stars align to get him to keep it. A victory then for Vivek Kanthan from Bodishlesen, Noah Montero third from Rocco Coronel, then Nathan Ty, Kasper Schaumann, Stan Kelleher, Jensen Burnett, Nasho Tunion and Ty Fisher in the 10 scoring positions. 11th place for Rahim Alibai, the American. That's his best result in the Spanish F4 paddock so far this year. Felipe Rice doing a fair job in 12th position. Excellent work from Alish Pinheiro to work his way back to P13. Fausto Bernardo, Jakub Mikalev and Zoe Florescu. Great race from the Romanian in front of Jean-Paul Carras. Sam Uras doing a fair job in his first weekend. Boloet in front of Simon Barbarella made up 10 places after his front wing change. Chartier, Petrovic coming back to P22. Cochet, Philippe Carras, Alphonse Mittinen, Jordan Moodley, and then it is Rodrigo Martinez from Sandro Perez. Sadly, Marianito had to stop on the very last lap with a problem with her car, and she joined Riccobono, Kaczynski, Frigolet, Redek, Vlusha and Blashkos on the sidelines. A race of attrition, Claire, but Vivek Kanthan full of confidence heading to round 2.
Yeah, like you said, he's going to go home and see his family and have a bit of a rest from all of this. And he'll need to have a sit down after the roller coaster of the weekend. It's it's so interesting to see, isn't it? He seemed happy, but maybe a bit more subdued. He was so much happier when we spoke to him after the first win in race 1. I think he knows at this point how quickly it can all change, and especially he would have known that the track limits were looming over him as well. So fingers crossed that the umbrellas have really come out now. So it also very interesting, Jake, to hear what he was saying about how the rain did affect him out there. Obviously, we didn't speak to all of the drivers, but speaking just to Vivek Kanthan himself, he was saying, actually, yes, on cold tyres, I was feeling that rain each time, and for the restart. And now we saw the restart a few times where actually we saw him under a bit more pressure from Boresh Lison. So this could be why that actually under cold tyres, the restart and the rain coming down, that was where he was having a bit of Achilles heel moment.
So the 3 rookies on their podium are going to be Kasper Schaumann, Rocco Coronel and the winner Bodishlesen. And he will also be on the overall podium because Noah Montero is 3rd, Bodishlesen 2nd and the race winner overall, Vivek Kanthan. The ladies' prize goes the way of Zoe Florescu, the Bucharest Beaut. Right, we're going to go back and look at the winning moment once again for Vivek Kanthan. Fabulous display and a great performance to continue the immense work. Fastest lap of the race, though, did not go the way of Vivek Kanthan. That was Bodishlesen. I think if we had had a little bit more green flag running, the pole could have upset the apple cart there a little bit, and that will certainly be in the mindset of Griffincourt and Campos heading to the second weekend of the championship on the first weekend of June at Portimao. Out of the car, Vivek Kanthan. We're going to see a lot more of these histrionics from him this year. When he is happy and when he's satisfied, he is very animated. That's a wonderful, wonderful character that we'll get to see out of Vivek Kanthan this year. Yesterday, he was running rings around the opposition. Today, he was sleeping at the front end of the field almost, waiting for this race to be done. But he did have to work a little bit harder than those animations suggest. But it tells you a lot about the personalities of these drivers, doesn't it, Claire? At the end of the day, these guys are all just fabulous characters that we're going to get to know a lot over the course of this season.
Yeah, and this is again what we've been saying. So many drivers within this field, but we're starting to see their personalities already coming out as they're all chatting. These guys have all come up together as well, so they've known each other for years, usually from karting, and raced against each other and know each other's personalities by this point. So it's always nice to see them chatting afterwards, you know, fierce rivals on the track. But as soon as they come out and have a chat with each other, firstly you see how young the field is, you know, like we've been saying, all 15, 16, 17-year-old. The eldest is Petrovic at 20. You know, they're all learning it together, and I think that's what makes them such fierce competitors as well.
Yeah, it's been fascinating to see how it's all been going. Alex Garcia, thank you so much for your help on the sidelines. A very interesting storyline from this weekend then. 2 wins for Coronel and Vivek Kanthan grabbing 1. What do we think we can see at Portimao in June in the championship fight?
It'll be really interesting to see what we can see in 2 months' time, because for these drivers, it's going to be a long wait, and things can change a lot if you get those new conclusions that you haven't reached necessarily here. It's a lot of time to analyze things. We know that these drivers like to do it, But I think we can single out 3 drivers. I think 3 potential candidates, which would be Vivek Kantan, Noah Montero, and Rocco Coronel, who are perhaps the most competitive, but we cannot discount other outsiders like Nathan Tai, Aleix Piñera, and who knows if other rookies can suddenly make a big leap forward and join the fray. We saw that last year. We saw that especially 2 years ago with Mattia Colnaghi recovering as the season went on. And we know that this is a classic story of the Spanish competition. So I think that's the expectation. But one thing is definitely for sure, guaranteed. We are going to have a lot of fun this year.
Gracias, Alex. All fantastic work from your side, and we'll see you again, of course, for the next round of the championship encounter. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
So to the podium ceremony. It's obviously been an exciting one for Boris Leeson to come through with Noah Montero and Vivek Kanthan. We may not have the opportunity, sadly, to stay with the podium ceremony. You'll obviously be able to get all the shots of that on the social media page. Like and subscribe to F4 Spanish Championship. That wraps it up for the weekend. It's been a fantastic one for all of the competitors across the board in F4 Spain. Rocco Coronel, 2 victories. Vivek Kanthan taking the win. And we do indeed, in fact, have the national anthem for Vivek Kanthan, the Star Spangled Banner. And that just signals the start of an epic championship battle at the front end of the field. The racing weekend here at Valencia has come to a conclusion, but of course there's more on the way this season. The F4 Spanish Championship reconvenes with Euro Cup 3 on the first weekend of June, but there's also going to be some immense battles when the Euro Cup 3 season kicks off on the first weekend of May at the Paul Ricard circuit at Le Castellet in France. There's a lot more to come in this season, and the battles that we've seen from these fantastic talents at the sharp end of the dais in the F4 Spanish Championship, very reflective of what we're going to see. Vivek Kanthan versus Noah Montero and Rocco Coronel. Claire, bring it on for the season.
I know, what an exciting season we're looking forward to here. And you have to remember, these drivers, Boris Leeson, who I think was the standout in that race, 15 years old. What we are seeing in the next history of drivers here. I'm really excited to see how they get on this year.
So the drivers making their way onto the top step of the podium. Noah Montero will be third, and Vivek Kanthan on the top step of the podium. It turns out we are going to stick around for the other podium ceremonies, which is great news. And of course the boys here at Valencia have something to celebrate as they get, in Valencia style, busy with the fizzy. And Vivek Kanthan and Noah Montero keep it very much in their own fold, as it were. But Boris Leeson getting a little bit late to the bottle, and that works out in his favour because he can catch up to the 2 around him. Excellent stuff. And Boris Leeson, I'm really excited to see how he will continue this progression in 2026. I do think that Alex Garcia makes a good point in the fact that we're likely to see Kanthan, Montero and Coronel as the consistent 3 for the season. But when you've got people like Lesion, Tai, Shormans, Petrovic still trying to chomp at the bit, and they'll take scalps out of those 3 over the season, they'll make their own play, and that could definitely change the trajectory of this F4 Spanish Championship title fight.
Yeah, I think we're going to see. Sorry, I thought I'm going to throw myself in there and just say I agree with you. I think we are seeing a very exciting championship already heating up. We're going to have a look at the rookies podium next, as the we've got so many rookies on the grid as well, haven't we? I had the number earlier, but it's something like 20 odd rookies on the grid, and so this podium is a big battle, isn't it, Jake, for the rookie win?
Yeah, it certainly is. And of course we get the leading lady as well in Romania's Zoe Florescu. So she gets the female prize, the top trophy on the podium, of course, going to the leading rookie, Boris Leeson. But Casper Schormans picks up the 3rd best rookie, the Richard Mille Talent Academy youngster for MP. The Dutchman will now see his teammate and fellow Dutchman, Red Bull Junior Rocco Coronel, pick up the 2nd rookie trophy. But Boris Leeson, I am so excited for 2026. This boy really has taken that victory in the Spanish Winter Championship and it's galvanized him. It's cleared his focus and his mental development is accelerating big time. Well done to Zoe Florescu as well in the ladies category. She, Maria Giamanonito and Luna Fluscia will be trading the wins all the way through the season, I'm sure. But it's wonderful to see Zoe Florescu really start to knock on the door of the point scorers in her own vapid pace. So well done to the competitors. They've done a fantastic job in the first of the F4 Spanish Championship race weekends here on the Circuito Ricardo Tormo. And that just about wraps it up as the drivers from the rookies and ladies categories get busy with the fizzy. We'll conclude. A massive thank you from me, Jake Sanson, and my colleague Claire Cottingham, everybody at the Epic Championships and the Killite, and a big thanks to Alex Garcia down in pit lane, to Paco, our producer, and all the team behind the scenes. We are very grateful for your patronage. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bells. You won't miss a moment of this epic 2026 season. Next up, it's Euro Cup 3 from Le Castellet. We'll be back with F4 Spanish Championship at Portimao on the first weekend in June. Bye for now.
Vamos a estar muy atentos a lo que vaya sucediendo. Así pues, tenemos 3 pilotos. Agradezco en este caso el detalle que se nos indica para poderlo comentar. Sandro Pérez, dorsal número 2, Poleman. Dorsal 70, en este caso, que recordemos es Santi Castilla, que parte en tercera fila de la parrilla de salida. Y el dorsal número 52, que es Alejandro Sánchez, van a llevar neumáticos de mojado. Y el resto van a llevar seco. Esto puede ser un baile, pero vamos a repasar primeramente la parrilla de salida.